In this lesson, we will learn about pawns. Pawns are very cool in some ways and the most basic piece, but they also have a lot of special rules about their movement that we will need to learn. Let's start with the placement, where they go. Both sides have 8 pawns, and they go here, along the 2nd rank for white, and here, the 7th rank for black. When we learn about the other pieces, they will go here, on the 1st, and here on the 8th ranks, behind the pawns. Pawns are each worth 1 point in the game, while every other piece is worth more. So if we think of chess as a battle, the pawns are the foot soldiers on the front line who will clear the path for the heavier pieces to break through later. Most of the time, pawns move 1 space at a time forward. For white, here, forward means up the board, while for black, this means down the board. So for instance, white may make the move e3, black may play c6, white may play b3, and so on. A pawn cannot ever move backwards, so make sure that if you move a pawn, you really want it to be there. When a pawn makes its first move, or leaves home, it can take a big jump and move 2 squares. So instead of just moving to e3, we could have actually gone to e4. Every pawn can do this, make a big jump when it leaves home, but only the first time it moves. For instance, black can now play c5, white can play f4, and so on. Once the pawn has moved though, it can only move 1 square afterward. So while black can now play something like b5, he cannot play c5 to c3. The c pawn has already left home, so it can only move 1 square at a time. Another interesting thing about pawns is that they capture differently from how they normally move, and they are the only piece that does this. Say, for instance, white plays e4 and black plays e5. You may think, aha! I can now take their pawn on e5. Turns out you can't. Pawns do not capture forward. When pawns are like this, we say they are stuck in the mud, because they cannot move anymore. So how do pawns capture then? They actually capture in a way called diagonally, or on a slant. Forward diagonally is a chess word you will hear over and over again as you learn more about the game. Let's see what it means for pawns. We already said that these two are stuck in the mud and can't move anymore. But what if white now plays d4? Do you see how this pawn is diagonally forward from the black pawn on e5? Black can now take this pawn by moving his to its square. This is how pawns capture, diagonally forward. Now let's see if you've got this. It's white's turn, and black has 3 pawns in front of his pawn. Which of these can white capture? That's right, white can take on either b5 or d5, but not c5. As those two are stuck in the mud, you can only capture diagonally. Now that you know how pawns capture, you should note that pawns can be even stronger and protect each other from being captured in the same way. For instance, say white plays e4. Black might want to play d5 to attack white's pawn. But what's the problem with this? That's right, white can simply capture right back. So if black really wanted to challenge white in the middle, a better way to do this would be to prepare first with e6 or c6. Then, after white made another move, black would be ready to strike at white's pawn with d5. Now, if white were to capture, black can capture right back and he's not losing a pawn. When pawns are in a formation like this, they protect one another, and we call this a chain. So, you now know all the basic rules about pawns, and you can practice moving with them on your own board. Pay attention to when you are stuck and when you can capture. There are a couple of really cool special rules with pawns that we will cover in the next lesson. Promotion and impassant come later. Okay, Chess NYC, let's do this. Back to work.